On this episode of Enduro Kings, the riders journey to Tuscany, Italy for the first race of the year, an evil torture test on a dirt bike. Then it's off to the Nantmore Quarry in southern England for a cold, tough, and muddy extreme enduro battle royale. So sit back and relax, because Enduro Kings begins right here, right now. The extreme enduro season begins in February, in the dead of winter. The first race of the year is a classic, and no more than 10 riders have ever finished.
We are now in Toscana, in Italy, at Hell's Gate, extreme enduro race, and yeah, it's very, very tough here and cold, and the mountains a little bit snowy, so it's a very tough race.
Hell's Gate is basically two races in one. The morning's race is a 4 or 5 hour conventional enduro, still through some pretty gnarly terrain, but it's, checkpoints and special tests and that sort of thing. If you get in the top 30 of that, it's you have a 2 hours rest, so chow some pasta, and then into I think a 4 hour, 5 hour elimination race. If you fall more than half an hour behind the leader at the end of the lap, you go home.
Hell's Gate is probably one of the more difficult races, just because it purely grinds you down with the morning race, and then you've got the big main race in the afternoon, which goes into the evening.
Altogether should take around 8 hours of riding with 2-hour break in between.
It's a really long day. A lot of it's about conserving energy, and it's always down to a bit of luck as well in these events. It's so easy to have a problem, hit a rock, come off, crash, or your lights fail, so there's a lot to worry about.
Hell's Gate is a test of man and machine. It's the conventional enduro format taken to the next level.
We finished the last lap at night, so definitely we are all very tired, but without fans you would not finish the race, because the Hell's Peak is unrideable. You get as far as you can, and then the people are so happy to help you. It's a unique experience, when they carry the bike and carry the rider, and it's really cool.
Tadej Blasuziak, the world's #1 extreme enduro rider, looks to make it his third win in a row at Hell's Gate. Only one rider has ever done this before. Two of Great Britain's best stand side by side. Number 4 is Graham Jarvis in his signature blue, and on the left is number 3, 12-time World Trials champion Dougie Lamkin. Today, they will have an epic battle that becomes legendary. Hell's Gate isn't a race about speed. It's about survival, especially early in the morning with snow in the air, ice on the course, and then having to withstand 4 hours of non-stop riding. And this is just the first half of the race. The top 30 will advance.
It's speed trial, yeah, with difficult sections and full throttle, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Fun? Just wait until Letty experiences the night race. Then he'll know what fun is all about.
The Hell's Gate is born 5 years ago, and the idea was in order to make some race like a Gilles Lallet, because in France there was Gilles Lallet, very tough race, especially because the winter, because February is very hard. No? I would like to have in the podium just one rider. I want to see the people, the riders, to suffer even in the morning and even in the afternoon. This is my idea.
Qualifying is in full swing. 4 laps will determine the top 30, and each lap will take about 45 minutes to complete. It's like a race in itself.
The terrain here at Hell's Gate is really difficult, because there's a lot of uphills and downhills, but it's very rocky, very slippy. It's just a really difficult, hard on the hands and everything, physical race.
Well, I haven't done anything like this before. It's very close to like a World Enduro Championship race, I think, to me, because of the regularity stages and the special stages. We don't normally find that in a race like a Itzburg or a Maniacs. And that's why we're here this year, to have a look at all the different races and see how we fare, and then we need to know what kind of training we need to do for next year.
At the end of qualifying, Taddy gets the fastest lap time. He is halfway towards a three-peat. Graham Jarvis also laid down a solid run, just 28 seconds off the pole for second place. Germany's Andreas Lettenbichler takes the third position for the start of the main event. Now is when the real fun begins. And here it is, the main event. 30 riders will race for another 4 laps that will take them into the cold of night. The morning qualifier was tiring enough. Imagine having to compete for another 4 hours through terrain that will double in difficulty. It is a dead engine start, which means no engines running until Fabio Fasola drops the flag. Taddy takes the early lead. This is what he likes to do: set the pace and make everybody else race his race. With 4 wet, cold, and miserable laps ahead, it's try and keep up or be left behind. And those riders who fall 30 minutes behind the leader are automatically pulled from the race. Andreas Lettenbichler, Dougie Lamkin, and Graham Jarvis are keeping a close eye on Blasuziak, not letting him get too far ahead. But no lead is safe at Hell's Gate. Not even for Taddy.
I had a good lead, and then I went on the ice, crashed, no brake, and then I tried to follow them with no brake and crashed like 35 times more.
And just like that, Taddy is out of the race. With the big turn of events, suddenly there is new life for the podium. Graham Jarvis happily assumes the lead role, followed by Dougie Lamkin. Both riders are no stranger to this event. Jarvis took second here in 2008, while Lamkin took third here just a year ago. Andreas Lettenbichler has also joined the chase for the win. These 3 riders have begun to separate themselves from the rest of the field.
Vai, firma, firma!
Besides the difficult conditions, the riders also need to worry about the cutoff. Anyone who falls 30 minutes behind the leader will be pulled from the race. And now another challenging element of Hell's Gate is about to set in: darkness. Hell's Gate is currently the only hard enduro where you race during the day and night. And when the sunlight disappears, so does your comfort zone. It's a cold and lonely place in these forests, especially when all of the spectators have left to wait at the finish line. There's no one left out here. The time limit is up for the riders who are too far behind. Chris Birch's hope for a finish are once again taken away. Now all that's left is the trio of Jarvis, Lamkin, and Letty. This is going down to the wire. This is the finish at Hell's Gate. It's called Hell's Peak, and it is downright ugly and unrideable. Lights are seen in the distance. Jarvis and Lamkin arrive at the base of the peak together. There is no sign of Letty. Both riders give it everything they've got, but they have gone as far as they can go. Now, the infamous Italian conveyor belt kicks in. This is the spectators' time to do their thing. But even with assistance, Jarvis cannot keep up with Lamkin. And in the end, the 12-time World Trials champion climbs the final steps to victory. This race ended up being the toughest edition yet. Just 2 finishers. And tonight becomes a milestone for Lamkin, as Hell's Gate becomes his first Extreme Enduro win. It is scary to think about because if he has half of the success he has had in trials, Lamkin is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Even though Jarvis came up short, he shows the spirit of a true champion.
Thanks to everyone helping me and pulling me up. The crowd, fantastic.
And while the celebration is on tonight, it won't be long until these two meet again. The next race, back in their home country, will be a Battle Royale of Extreme Enduro. Next stop, the tough one. In Extreme Enduro, each race is different. No two are the same. Now at the second race of the year, the riders are in for another brutal challenge. All the big names are here. And this man has won the event 4 times in a row.
We're in the middle of nowhere. It's called Wales, I think. It's stuck on the side of England, but I have got no idea when I'm coming to events like this. I'm a trials man.
They're fun, you know. It's sort of, you've got to treat them more like this one, maybe not as much, but you've got to treat you against the circuit, and you've just got to forget about everyone in the race and ride and just, you know, not even think you're in a race, just ride and try and, you know, if you get stuck on something, you've got to keep doing it until you get up it, and you can't give up. If you give up, then that's the end.
It's pretty difficult. It's quite a short course. It's really intense. So it's a 2-hour sprint. The course isn't as difficult as some of the other ones we have to do, but it's really close racing.
How did you come up with the idea? Been into motorbikes and enduro riding since I can remember, 25, 30 years. And extreme events were happening like the Giles Lallet and, you know, and Hell's Gate, and stuff was happening all across the place. And Le Shark Extreme was another one I remembered, and I thought, we can do something like this in the UK. We did it in 05. It was very small scale. David Knight still starred in that one for us. We had about 500 people here. It was good atmosphere, but it gave the country a taste of what could come.
It's a good event. It's the biggest one that we've got here in England, so it's nice to ride at home in front of the home supporters.
We think the riders, like the top riders, really, they need this. They enjoy it. It's their time to show the public what they can do. Because they can read about it. They're doing so-and-so in America, so-and-so in Spain, so-and-so in France. This is now in Great Britain, and you can come and see them do it here. Basically, it's a multi-lap cross-country event with some tough sections in that you wouldn't normally have in your everyday race. Bring in the superstar riders, bring in some man-made sections in this natural amphitheatre of Nantmar Quarry, and you've got a good, tough 2-hour battle. The winner does the most laps in the 2 hours.
No engines running, and your hands on your helmet, please, on the top of your head. 2 hours. The checkered flag comes out at the leader nearest that time.
In the history of this race, no one has had more success at the tough one than David Knight. He has only lost once, and last year it was due to a failed bike and one rider called Taddy Blasuziak. But Taddy isn't here this weekend. Right after lap 1, the Manxman takes a hold of the lead. But the UK's Tom Sager looks to step up and give him a fight. Last year, Sager took second place, his best finish yet. And let's not forget about the rest of the top 10. Chris Birch, Paul Bolton, Letty. The who's who of extreme enduro is here. With an exciting win last week at Hell's Gate, Dougie Lampkin is riding high. But guess who's right behind? The old silent assassin. It's payback time for Graham Jarvis. David Knight is putting the finishing touches on his way to victory. It's a display of total domination, like he's riding against competitors on bicycles. And to put things in perspective, he has almost caught up to Tom Sager, who is in second place. Amazing. But Sager isn't concerned about that now. He's got other things to worry about, like trying to fight off Dougie Lampkin and Graham Jarvis, who are in an absolute brawl behind him. For Tom, protecting the runner-up position is far more stressful than chasing the leader. It is interesting to note that these 4 riders all come from trials backgrounds, where balance and agility on a bike are inherent. This skill set gives trials riders an advantage in extreme competitions. Today is further proof. By now, the pain and agony have set in. The moment is a bit euphoric, but not in the pleasant sense. Your mind becomes filled with doubt. You can barely feel your arms and legs, which have become like rubber bands. The crowds are screaming, but you cannot hear what they are saying. It seems pointless to go on. You are not going to finish anyway. But then, a moment of clarity. You ignore the pain and keep going. Without even knowing, you have just defined what a hard enduro rider is all about. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. Tom Sager is giving it everything he's got. 1 lap to go, while Dougie Lampkin hunts him down, hoping for a mistake. Unfortunately, Graham Jarvis has fallen back. Too late now. T1 has taken its toll. Like he has done so many times before, David Knight wins the tough one.
Did it feel that way for you? Reasonably easy? It looked that way.
Yeah, I felt like it did exactly like 08 did. I'm the same bike near enough, and hopefully it's a good sign.
I'm sure it will, Dave. All the best. Congratulations.
Sager has enough in the tank and clinches number 2 for his 2nd year in a row. Dougie Lampkin takes 3rd, completing a familiar trinity of top finishers.
I knew Graham and Dougie would be, very good here after their finish at Hell's Gate, so I pushed as hard as I could until that last lap, and that was when I could take it easy and take in some scenery.
All 3 of these men know too well how luck can come and go. And with Hell's Gate and the tough one out of the way, they're already preparing for what's around the corner. The rest of the extreme enduro season isn't going to get easier. With spring in the air, the training will ramp up as the riders head to their next big event, Erzberg.